I do a lot of different things. And I was thinking as I thought about my presentation today, whether I should just come and talk about the fine art world and the fine art work that I do. I thought that would be disingenuous not to speak about the full range of things that I consider creative. And so what I'm going to do is touch briefly on the areas that I'm interested in, the areas that essentially fund my studio, my business, and also the cross-fertilization between the various areas that I work in. I find that the technical science side and the development work I do lead into art pieces, and sometimes artwork that I do lead into technical development. So these are the areas up on the screen that I was saying we, I have people working for me throughout the presentation, that we work in. Technical lighting development, R&D. We design products, consumer products, and this is an area I've been talking to a number of people throughout the conference that I would advocate artists, designers here in Ireland look into. It can be a very lucrative source. If you can't develop a large local market, licensing your products to large retail firms can be a very good way to help support your business. Architecture and installation work, probably the biggest area that we work in, and Strattman designed products which actually go into the architectural installations. And then finally, I'll show you some of my artwork. First part, R&D, and I'll go through this quickly. These are some products. This is an example of what we've done, developing products for a company. All these products were developed for a competition for Business Week magazine. We developed all these in 3 weeks, from start to finish. And they're all made out of plate glass and filled with gases. I should have said in the beginning that basically what I do is I work in glass, but I use glass as a means to shape light. And I use all forms of glass, from plate glass to fused quartz to borosilicate, soda lime. In this case, this is all made with regular window glass. This is a product that I spent 6 years on. This is sheet coin glass. I won't go into the technical description of what that is, but it's a collaboration I did with Corning and spent about 6 years working on it. And that disc in the lower right there is actually just a disc of glass filled with gas. We broadcast energy at it, and out comes a bright red light that was supposed to be used in automobile lighting. And the technical issues are extreme in R&D. That's why it took 6 years of intense work. It's another technical innovation working with again Corning and Samsung. That panel on the left is a large white flat backlight used for backlighting LCD TVs. And again, extreme number of technical issues had to be addressed in making that. And it's still in development. Hundreds of millions of dollars are going into these things. And surprisingly, our little studio in Boston, we can make things and develop things faster than a big corporation like Corning. We can do things in 48 hours. It takes them 3 months before they get a project team together. Licensed products. Using some of the techniques that I have developed, I've come up with a number of licensed products. As I mentioned, it's a good way to help fund your studio. I was making this product. This is my patent on lumen glass. It came out of my development work working to develop plasma flat screen TVs. I came up with lumen glass, which is a fused lamination of window glass, where the middle is cut out and replaced with glass beads. Air is removed, xenon gas is put in, and it produces a kinetic flat light like this. I was selling about 3 to 4 of these a month before I licensed it. I licensed it to a company, and that figure went up to about 10,000 a month. Another patented piece is a lighted hourglass. Just ignore the writing on the right. These are from marketing cut sheets. So a lighted hourglass, a flexible, bendable neon piece. A lot of these, my prototypes were a lot more elegant. By the time they got to China and got redesigned, it came out rather tacky, but I got a royalty stream, so I really didn't. This is a strobe alarm clock. I had this gigantic strobe light on my shelf, and one of our marketing people who came through saw it and designed a clock around it. If you have trouble getting up, this will wake you up. It's a brilliant white strobe and it rings the glass like a bell. A beer mug. This is an interesting one. This uses the same exact principles as that automobile light. And it's just a glass envelope filled with low pressure neon gas, and it's put in a high voltage field and it causes the, in this case, the beer mug to glow. And a few other pieces. This is putting metals inside of a glass environment. The metals are coated with a material called phosphor, which is where the green color comes from. And then plasma gases are put in around it, so you get fingers of light. Okay, architectural installations where we do most of our work. This is a big Carnival cruise ship where we did a gigantic Dr. Frankenstein's lab, which is right up our alley. Most of what we do looks like Dr. Frankenstein stuff. These are some of the pieces. On the lower right here, you can see some of the sconce lights that are in the club up above being made. That's the lumen glass product. It's been fused flat and then slumped in molds, pumped and filled with gases. And you can see they're under test right there. This is one of the biggest installation pieces we have. We have bars all over the world. This one's in Scottsdale, Arizona. These are lumen glass being used as bar tops. It's a great thing for drums to do. Play with like keep moving around in your hand. This was the first one of those we did. One in Japan. The Japanese love these. Another one in Brussels. And we have others around the world. This one even went into a contemporary kitchen as a backsplash. And of course, club work. A lot of nightclubs we do lumen glass. And I just picked lumen glass. We have a range of products which I'll be showing you. This is just showing the lumen glass. We have a lot of other products that are clubs. So, as I mentioned, lumen glass is probably the product we're best known for, primarily because it got into an episode, and then finally a whole series and a number of movies. Star Trek picked it up. That's the Borg character in the back. Those of you who know it. Oops, this is what I thought it was going to be. This is lumen glass being made, water jet cut glass, fused together, and then lit up. And we can do virtually any shape. Keep jumping ahead. Some process shots from our shop. Free blown glass. Technical expert. Lathe work glass down here. We have to go in during the middle of the process and put an electrode on, which is the silver suit guys there. These are some signage pieces that we make. Each one of those is a separate lit element. We've done a lot of logo work and whatnot for that. This is a big cube made out of, each side is a big lumen glass panel. And this is a piece showing we can make things flat, like the flag on the left, or we can actually slump them in a secondary operation and actually make things in any type of curve we want to make them. Plasma globes is where I started my company back in 1983, making blown glass pieces filled with a special mixture of gases that produces fingers of light. And we still make and ship these every week. That's about the smallest one we make. The largest is about this big in diameter. We make the largest in the world, museums in every country. Just a few examples of plasma, all small ones here. These are some pieces we shipped recently. In fact, we've done a lot of jobs like this piece of giant plasma tubes. We use up to the largest tubing in the world, which is 12 inches in diameter. And these are, I believe, 8 inches in diameter, 6 or 8. And they make a slow, undulating, deep blue line through them. This is a process shot. I spent half my day bent over inside the kiln, hanging upside down by my feet, doing attachment things to vacuum systems that are outside of the kiln. You have to not only make the glass and anneal the glass, but then we have to bake it at high temperature under vacuum before putting the gases in. Crackle Tubes, another product of ours. This is a tube filled with a media such as glass beads, cut up glass tubing, etc. And then these pieces of glass are coated with a phosphor to give a range of colors. And very, very energy efficient. You can run that tube that my assistant's holding there on flashlight batteries. Very long life too. The lumen glass and the Crackle have been tested, and it's the longest life of any lighting device ever invented. Just finished our first life test on the lumen glass, 17 years around the clock. Even LEDs don't last that long. Some other Crackle devices. Actually, it's the same type of device, but the one on the right is filled with clear glass beads. The one on the left, we're using black beads. It makes a nice background. Just a blown glass piece. That's a very big piece. That stands about this high. And this is a recent piece of Crackle ball. It's actually a ball blown inside of a ball, because if you fill that entire ball with glass beads, you can get it pick it up. It's so heavy. So this is just an annular space between the two. And that's the actual brightness of it. It's extremely bright. Those are green phosphor-coated beads in the two. It's technically a challenging piece to make. You have to cut the ball, the outside ball, in half, put the inner one in, seal it, and then seal the outer ball on over it. Lightning tubes. Quickly. Another effect, putting different gases in different power supplies to make a lightning effect. It doesn't typically look like that. That's the result of photography. The lightning is going so fast, it's hard to photograph. Jacob's ladders. We do a variety of things. We've got a whole bunch of different products. This is the newest one and probably the most interesting to the market that we serve right now, Mesmer Tubes. I developed this several years ago. It's a tube within a tube. The inner tube is coated with phosphor, and there's a xenon arc that comes out the end and winds very slowly around the inner tube. And the ultraviolet light from the xenon discharge causes the phosphor to light up underneath it. And it's the slowness people love it. The greatest product in our industry of light art is the lava lamp, because it's slow, it's random, and this approaches the lava lamp. It's very slow, very random, and you can interact with it. So we're starting to make more and more of these. Here's one where I created an actual painting inside of the Mesmer using different phosphors. When this is off, it's completely white. All phosphors are white when they're off. When you turn it on, the ultraviolet lights up the different colors. Okay, fine art, and I probably should have put that in quotes. This is some of the sculpture I've done. Time limitations, I'll have to go through it pretty quickly. This is some of the early sculpture. You can see with a date made with the lumen glass. Back when I was just learning about it. Trying different techniques with phosphors and glass cutting techniques, and as well as design. This is the biggest lumen glass. That's about 4 feet in diameter, which is a big fused piece. If you work glass, you know that annealing something that's 4 feet in diameter is quite a while. But we sold many of these around the world. This is from a detail from a shop where I made essentially a tree out of the lumen glass and welded steel. This piece has been so popular on our website, I had to remake it over and over again. It's actually in museums around the world. And somehow this guy's in here. This doesn't light up. This is just some of the 3-prong glass that I do sculpture. This is hollow blown. I love working with light bulbs. I make many sculptures with light bulbs, both lit and unlit. This happens to be unlit. Truth and Beauty, I just sold this piece. You can see when it was made. This rotates. And I have many pieces that are commentary on my view of the art world. This is an advertising piece. It's made out of a mirror so that the user can see themselves in this equation, in this little comment that I have about the art world that galleries and shows essentially advertise truth and beauty, which is supposed to be the essence of art. But when you get there, all there really is the advertisement. I found the art world, in many cases, very, very hollow, very empty. There's no point of entry of understanding a lot of what you see in a lot of contemporary galleries. This piece, Not Now Please, was made back in Boston during the height of the AIDS crisis, where we're losing so many people in the art world to AIDS, including the gallery director that I worked with for many, many years. That flame on top is made out of fused glass neon. Neon is water jet cut and fused, and I've done a lot of work making both neon, not out of tubing, but out of window glass. This piece is still empty. It was another commentary piece I did. I felt making lighted sculpture rarely taken seriously. As a matter of fact, they say any piece that has to be plugged in will never be taken seriously. So this is obviously a faucet. Now, if you saw this in a kinetic form, you'd see it looks like flowing water that goes into a jar that never fills. It's still empty. Like what I felt about my career at that time. This comes from a series of Geisler tubes. I'd love to give you a whole lecture on Geisler tubes. I did a number of artists got together, glass artists, making these replicas of pieces that were made back in the 1800s. This was another piece of Prisoner of Golden Chains. This piece just sold about a month ago. That's a platinum-coated figure inside. So when you see this on, the arcs go up and travel on the surface of her body. You don't see any arc, and then it comes out again at her fingertips, supposedly energizing the distressed figure on top, made out of black glass. I didn't come up with that title, by the way. There's another title. Those of you who don't or do know what that means, explain it to the rest. These two French girls tell me what that title means, and they retitled it for me. This and the next two slides are from the series. Talking more about the time. This one, and this one. These are all blown glass pieces, silver, and very briefly, they're from a time early to mid 20th century, where I believe that science became our new God, where we started to believe that science would solve all our problems, yet most people stopped understanding how most of the things around them worked. So it truly became like a religion. And also our heroes, like this sort of came from the Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon era, I don't know if those names are common over here, where our heroes were now created to put between advertisements to sell us products. So our heroes no longer represented the ideals of the past, but more or less just filler between advertising. And I made them in an electronic tube form because the electronic tube essentially marked, in my mind anyway, a breaking point between the time when people used to understand how mechanical things work. In electronics, people's understanding sort of dropped off. This piece goes back to my earlier hippie activist days, series of Disgrace. You can read along the bottom there. I couldn't believe it. This number, $18,000 a day, the number of children that die every day because of hunger and malnutrition. Since I made this piece in a year, that's gone up to $24,000. And it doesn't even make the first section of any newspaper anymore. We're more worried about the economic crisis than something like this. This piece I made for a party, a number of artists celebrating a hand in making. This piece is the biggest piece I ever made of blown glass. It's 6 feet high. Actually, can't even really easily move it anymore because it gets too fragile. It was made as a memorial for a friend of mine. And when it's in a room and glowing, you feel an ethereal presence, and I think you would appreciate that. This is some of the incandescent work using incandescent filaments. I actually make my own filaments, and this is the first piece I actually made. Incandescent is very difficult to work with because it's very hot, and materials are difficult to work with. But some experiments in our pieces I made at the beginning. And then leading up to this piece, which has gotten a lot of notoriety, it's rarely seen like that. It's usually seen where one is fading up and the other is fading out. As you can read the title, it's Art and Disability. This is a commentary that's shown into a show for artists with disabilities. This is some of the emotions going back and forth with disabled artists fighting for their disability and also making art. This looks like incandescence. This is something new I developed. I'm just starting to work with it. Those light up like they're incandescent, but completely without any heat. This is a glow discharge. So I've made a number of pieces. I'll keep this work. I like that. It's another commentary on people walking through museums and spending on average 3.5 seconds looking at an art piece. And if you close your eyes, you'll think, oh, I like that. I like that. So I made essentially an identical piece, and I hate this work. It's a recent piece from a Keats poem, when I fear that I may cease to be, etc. And I like those words, and you can actually read them in different orders and get different meanings. And then a number of glasses here. I'll go through these really fast in 2 minutes. These are just sort of fun pieces. Between the lighted pieces, which can be very technically challenging, I like to just play. And of course, glass blowers, the goblet is something that's, most glass blowers would potentially get around to making goblets. But I wanted to make goblets that had a little bit of meaning to them. So I looked at our American culture. What do Americans like? If you look at their movies or television shows, they're obsessed with violence. So this comes from my Violent Deaths series. And it's all glass, by the way. Platinum coated blade here. Just passing through. That was a difficult piece to make. Injected sadness. Good democracy. Pills, red, white, and blue pills. That's during that time when I felt America was being very imperialistic around the world. This is the first one I made, Laceration. Nailed again. This is the first one. Bottle of Love, sort of my cynical look at love relationships. I like this one. This is from another series. Some of the more esoteric series that I've done, people just weren't getting it. So I thought I'd dumb it down even another layer. It's almost just a quick joke. And people still don't get it. So people would ask me, what does that mean? Same with the next one, vodka and orange juice. 80% of the people have to explain to you what a screwdriver is. Drinking problems, which was number 2. And then I started making some kinetic glasses. I started doing a little break. You can actually drink out of this, it's sealed through, and that actually turned. Martyrs cup. A few more of these. Patriotic drink, as you can see, you can turn the handle and waves the flag. We're a great country for waving our own flag and calling ourselves the greatest country on earth for some unknown reason. Drinking and driving is actually booze. I literally have many, many of these, but that's all I have. Thank you very much.
I know Olivier from the 24-hour design challenge that we had here at the NCAD this time last year, and he was very instrumental in getting a really good project off the ground. We're developing an educational recycling playground in North Dublin in Ballymun in collaboration with Ballymun Regeneration Limited and the Rediscovery Centre. And Olivier helped us develop that project, helped develop the idea, and also helped us secure funding for 2 master's students in industrial design to carry out this research over the next 2 years. So so we're very grateful to him. Now, the last time Olivier spoke, he spoke at college. He spoke at this podium, and he was wearing a self-made newspaper folded hat with a little drawing of Mr. Smash on the side, so I'll be very disappointed if he's not going to wear it today. Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Derek. I feel a bit old to be here because I feel like the ugly duck, the engineer, and having listened to craft and all the bright ideas and the creativity. And to be honest, I had to Google craft and to go on Wikipedia to find out what it was about. And I just realized the wide range of diversity of what is implicated with craft. And just to show you my experience with craft, it's one of the beach in Dingle. I was with my son and we looked at all the rubbish that were on the beach there, and we said, let's try to make something. So we tried to make a little raft, and so that's our raft, Mark 1, and the objective is to make a raft that may sail to the States one day. And we'll be keep looking at the rubbish on the beach and trying to make more and create something. So today I'm going just to give you a quick overview about the program, and also I'm going to talk a bit about maybe waste and what we find in the waste, and maybe talk about what I would see maybe is the role of craft, or maybe what you could do, and what I would be hoping is to get some opinions on where we can connect and maybe interact with recyclables, recycled materials and craft. But before we start, I might ask you a question. What do you think all those products have in common? Any ideas? That's right, they are all made from recycled materials. Apologies, I don't have any, let's say, craft product made from recycled materials, but I'm hoping that maybe following that day, at the next presentation, I will have one or two pictures of very good craft products that can be used. And just to illustrate, what can be made, it's more coming from an industrial design background, but the wood decking is a mix of wood plastic composite. They mix sawdust with recycled plastics to make decking. It's an Irish company based in Leeds that do that, and they sell it to a lot of marinas. They had a lot of good ideas, and they were also thinking about making modular houses that can be sent in countries where there was disasters to build houses. The other one is the traditional compost that is made from organic waste. The packaging with the egg is multiple packaging. It's made by a company called Utamaki. Originally, it's coming from Finland. They are based in Northern Ireland, and they use 20,000 tons of newspapers to make packaging like this. On the first picture at the bottom, the piece of care that you see, it's another Irish company that makes plastic curves to be used to complete care. One advantage of those curves, they are much easier to install. They are very light and they can be recycled as well. So it's just to show the ideas behind and what can be done. And there is a space, I'm sure, for craft and the ideas coming from craftsmanship to be there as well. So just a bit of the background. It's complicated, but our program is funded by the Department of the Environment. Our key aim, we are called RX3, but there was another name before. And we wanted a new name, and we wanted to have the tagline, Rethink, Recycle, Remake. So we feel that you have a very important part in the rethink aspect about new products and new materials, and in the remake aspect as well. There is a wide range of stakeholders, and there is a steering group that include IBEC, include Enterprise Ireland, a lot of regulators and a variety of departments to government. But the main mover behind it is the Department of the Environment. And we have been appointed since 2008 to run that program. It has been a bit slow to run at the start because, as most of the programs were being hit by the recession and the McGarry report as well, they've been looking at who was doing what and how much funding is going there. But things are moving, and there are a number of initiatives going on. That's the team. I'm the project manager. We have somebody looking after the communication with Grace Vinci. Connor is looking after the organics. and risk Connolly is looking after the material manager. I'm just putting the pictures there because we have an event on the 27th of April in Kilmenham Castle, and it's called the Sustainable Innovation Forum. And if you meet with them, and if you want to talk with them or with me after the event, you're welcome. The question is, why do we need to develop markets for recyclables? First, we need to develop them to support, to improve or reduce environmental impacts, to promote recycling and to improve resource efficiency. We can use recycled materials to replace raw materials. There is a clear benefit. And the other aspect as well is that if you look at 1 ton of cardboard which is exported abroad, you export that for 60 euros per ton. You get paid 60 euros per ton. If you can make a product that you export, you can get paid 500 euros per ton or 1,000 euros per ton. It means that you can add value here and you can create jobs. And the third one, it's more for the recyclers or companies operating in the recycling market. There are 80% of Irish recyclables that are exported. Unfortunately, following the recession in 2008, there was a big crash in terms of the value of those materials. And that crash affected recycling because they had to stockpile all the good plastic that you set aside in the grey bin, all the cardboard, and they were even talked of putting that back to landfill. It didn't happen, but it was quite, it became quite close. So there is a need to come up with indigenous markets here. And just an example as well of the impact of exporting versus local market. On the right-hand side, it's the price curve for plastic bottles. For some of the mix, some of the price were 200 pounds per ton in September, October 2008. And following the crash, it was reduced by 1/4. And if you look at the left-hand side, it's the price for recovered wood. Wood is a material that is dealt with locally by local businesses and local people. And you can see that it didn't have the same effect on price. So it means that local markets are much more sustainable from an environmental but also economic point of view. Obviously, as a number of environmental projects, there is a huge range of legislative drivers behind, between Waste Framework Directive, the packaging regulations. All those directives are more there to divert, to make sure that recyclable materials are collected separately. There are other directives as well, like the ELV, it means End of Life Vehicle Directive. It's for the old cars that are there. But the interest with them is that in those directives now there are there is an approach to eco-designs. For example, new cars have to be designed with end of life in mind. So you have to use products that are easy to dismantle and that can be reused. So it could provide as well good potential and good source of materials maybe for craft or new products. And obviously, once you have a separately collected your recyclables, you have many new products, you need to find markets for them. And that's one of the difficulties because markets, private sector, it's very close to the bottom line. You really have to demonstrate that you can compete in cost. So there is a huge role as well in terms of green procurement, and in terms of the public sector green procurement. There is currently an action plan which is being prepared by the Department of the Environment. And we would like to see that action plan that is going to be produced as going to act as a catalyst to generate more products, more green products available on the market, and that would allow good competition for products and for the sustainability. There are a number of challenges with those projects, and one of the key challenges is the lack of information, and also how complex the information is. I don't know if you have been maybe with ENDA or I think ENDA did a class on the life cycle assessment and life cycle issues. It's very complicated, and it's more for consultants. At the end of the day, the problem is that there is no simplified information available that tell you what is the best product and what is the wrong product, and that's one of the issues. There is also a lot of information about materials, and maybe you are probably more knowledgeable of materials, even though you say you are working with glass and something maybe more. But for example, plastics you can have 15 or 20 types of plastics, and they cannot be recycled together. Coke bottle, it's one type of plastic. The clear PET, it's one type that can only be recycled with clear PET, cannot be recycled with plastic bags. So it's one of the challenges as well in terms of developing, making products from recycled materials. There is also uncertainty about future market conditions, and the recession has affected funding for enterprise and new ideas, which is difficult. One of the key challenges that we see is that there is no life cycle costing. Environmental considerations are not taken into account in any cost of products. It may be taken into account maybe on the energy side now with the carbon tax, but for the use of recycled materials, it's not the case. And one that is as well maybe particular to Ireland, it's the issue of economy of scale. Ireland is a small country, it's 4 or 5 million people, and the ideas that have to be developed here have to be different maybe from the ideas that are taking place in mainland Europe, where the one country will be 50, 60 million people, or in China. And one example is in Ireland before there was a paper mill that was making new paper. It has closed because it couldn't compete with the cost, the running cost that you would have in Spain or in China. And it was the same with the glass bottle. But there is possibility to develop more niche market applications, and it's as well where you are able to play. And I will just go through a number of success stories of similar businesses. So we have a number of objectives. That one of the key objectives is to improve the quality of recyclables, because to have craftsmen, designer to work with recyclables, they need to get good quality materials. Without getting good quality recyclables, it's very difficult to make a product. And also, we have a need for innovation to identify new, reliable, and stable recyclable material. We work with a wide range of stakeholders. We work with the producers of waste. We work with the people that collect and recycle. And we work with the processors. And we would like to work as well with colleges and people who have ideas and connect them. For example, when we meet with Shabra Plastic or reprocessors, we like to tell them that there are good people in NCAD and other colleges with loads of ideas that could improve, that could give them ideas to develop new products, new types of recycled packaging, and we would like to assist in connecting you with those stakeholders. There are a number of delivery mechanisms, but I feel the key is to move from the viewing waste as a problem and seeing it as a resource. And the key is to establish partnerships and create demand as well. We need to focus on quality to build consumer confidence. And innovation is important as well. When we speak about innovation, I guess there is a lot of talk about the smart economy. But generally, for me, innovation is to look at what is done all over the world and maybe combine that knowledge in a new way. And that's innovation. There's no need to reinvent the wheel generally, because there are plenty of good ideas on the world. There is a need as well for supporting people, individuals, and organizations to come up with new ideas. And obviously, we have to keep sustainability in mind. So, we are not. Our program originally was focusing on the organic, which is the food and garden waste, paper and plastics. We are only starting to branch out into new materials now. So even though we are not dealing with glass and ceramics, there is potential there as well to open the dialogue. So we have a number of mechanisms through a communication program, a clean procurement program. There will be a call for proposal for research and development and feasibility and demonstration funding. So the work to date, and I put on top the 2 master students from the NCAD that Derek mentioned. There have been a consultation with the stakeholders. We have a website which is www.rx3.ie. You can have a look. There's a lot of news. The program as well about the Sustainable Innovation Forum on the 27th. Newsletters and case study. As well, we are involved in a number of, let's say, governmental groups where we are trying to influence things as much as we could. And we have specific projects, material-specific projects where we are trying to develop market intelligence, for example, what's happening with the waste, where it's going to, and connect the different actors in the supply chain. And there have been 2 competitions. The competition are going to be the winners of those competitions. There was a business competition and a student competition. They are going to be announced on at the Sustainable Innovation Forum on the 27th of April 2010, the Mr. Journey will be giving prices. To attend that event, it's free, but you need to register. There is one interesting keynote speaker called Don Saki, and he was talking on Bad Kenny on Friday morning. His company is called TerraCycle, and his approach is to upcycle. So he has set up a model where he works with the companies that produce packaging, and they send it back to him. And he has people there that can make new products from that packaging. It would be probably quite interesting if possible if some of you want to connect with him, because I'm sure he's always looking for ideas on the deal. He's also launching in Ireland, so he's going to do a bit more in Ireland, so he'll be here as well, so there could be some potential there. We are trying to disseminate as well, as much as possible, research and case studies on things that are happening all over the world. We are trying to work as well with Northern Ireland and to look at specific ideas. The ideas that are good in Northern Ireland, we are trying to bring them here, because they have a similar program called RAP in Northern Ireland, which is much bigger. They have 70 or 80 people working on it. And we are looking as well for a specific project on bulky waste. And bulky waste, one interesting part of bulky waste is that there is a lot of potential for reuse as well, maybe craftsmanship in terms of furniture and electrical goods, books, textile. It's how to find a way of collecting that materials and making it available to people. We'll be looking at, we'll be publishing a feasibility call for funding in May, and it will be followed by research and development and demonstration projects during the year, so that could be interesting as well for NCAD and the colleges. Green procurement it's a big objective for us as well. But to be honest, in the current climate, I find it's hard to get your head around green procurement and how to make it work, because the cost implication is a big challenge here. So it's how to get that moving, as well how to advertise the products that are there. So what we have done on our website, we have collected a database of all the products that are made in Ireland from recycled materials. So if you are making any products from recycled materials, have a look at the website and contact us, and we can put you on the database as well. And we are looking at developing other tools as well to assist people. Because when we talk about procurement, if it's private procurement, generally it's relatively straightforward, but when we talk about public procurement, there are a lot of rules to be followed, and it's why it becomes quite complex. So just to give you an idea of what is in the waste, and it's taken from a UK study, and it's coming from a skip, normal household skip. And there is a lot of stuff in there. But for example, the slice of the pie in pink, it's miscellaneous combustible, it's 41%. And that's the stuff, it's made of a mix of, let's say, paper and plastic together. So you cannot really, it's not a one-type material, it's difficult to make things from it. And you can see it's nearly 41% of the skip, so you cannot really recycle that easily. I mean, people that work that collect waste, they can't, but maybe you have ideas to do something with it. And it could be carpet, it could be a mix of stuff. There is also some plastics, there is also some food waste, and there is also some non-combustible material that would be kind of inert and breaks and rubber. The other one is what goes in your green bin in Dublin. The green bin in Dublin is where you collect the recyclables. So it's mainly paper would be the newspapers, there would be card and cardboard, plastic would be mainly plastic bottles, the Tetra Pak, aluminium cans, and steel. So that's just an idea, just to show you what's in there. So we are looking at how we can reuse that materials to make new products. And there have been success stories in Ireland. Duracare, that's a company that is making the car stone. GFC, they are based in Galway. They make a lot of construction products. They make decking, pipes, marine products. They have designed a new system to grow mussels. It's made from recycled plastic. Small wares as well. It's a leading world manufacturer for coat hangers, and the person from Smallware was talking as well at that presentation. They make coat hangers from recycled plastic, and every time that there is one or two dry cleaners that use this product, you can create one job. Shabra Plastic, Shabra, they are based in Monahan, and Rita Shah, she's a very interesting person. She was, her company was making plastic bags until 2001, when the plastic ban came in place and retail outlets could not use plastic bags anymore. So they had to come up with a new business idea, and she met with all her employees, and they came up with the idea of making recycled products, and they are now very successful in making recycled bags, pipe rolls, pallet wrap, tubing, a lot of items, and they are always interested in getting new ideas about products and maybe doing some research. Another company is Bioplastic. Maybe you heard just another aspect you heard from Kevin O'Connor. He's a researcher in UCB. So Kevin O'Connor is what he likes to do is to work with bacteria. So he's looking at bacteria turning plastic waste into bioplastic. Another big company would be Wellman International. They use a lot of recycled PET. PET is the Coke bottle to make polyester fiber that they send to companies to make those fish jackets. One interesting aspect from Wellman is that they had to buy two companies, one in Holland and one in France, to supply the recycled materials to their facility in Ireland. So we are exporting 700,000 tons of recycled materials abroad, and Wellman is importing 80,000 tons of plastics to make products. The paper success story, the paper is it's a much more difficult question, or let's say there's less things that can be made from paper. There's Utamaki, which is making the egg packaging. Erin Horticulture, they are based in Kildare, I think. And they are making, when you go to a graveyard, you have the pots where you put the plants, and they are making those pots from recycled paper. And they are selling that to Germany, because in Germany they have a law that says that you're obliged to use biodegradable materials in graveyards. You cannot use plastic to put your plants. Another company is called EcoCell, which is designing cellulose insulation products from newspaper. On the organic side, it's mainly composting and anaerobic digestion where you can generate energy as well. There is one company that is very interesting, it's Enrich. And they took the approach of looking at composting not as a way of dealing with waste, but they took the approach from a product point of view. And now they have 15 or 20 products made from just taking food waste, composting it, and turning it into a new product. And they use it, for example, they develop rooftop applications when there is a new building, so a lot of new sustainable building would use a kind of green rooftop that can absorb the rain, and you can have plants on the top, so it's one of the applications. They have their products as well in a lot of garden exhibitions such as Bloom or the Chelsea Flower Show. So it's quite interesting as well what you can do from smelly food waste. So I guess now that I just would like to talk about you, it's more my view, let's say, of craftsmen and craftswomen and designers. So I see yourself as here to bring change and innovation. I guess one of the barriers for you is access to knowledge and equipment and obviously funding. It's also, I guess, one of the challenges to find good quality materials to work with, where therefore it's very important that there's a connection maybe with the organization that have that material, so there's some partnerships built there. Also, one of the key challenges for everybody is to make a living, to be able to sell products, so it has to be sustainable from an economic point of view. So that's what I see. I mean, you may tell me I'm completely wrong, so that will be fair enough, and I'm happy because I'm here as well to learn about what's happening. So the next slide is just to show you that my little raft was doing well. Probably went half a mile, and then there was a big wave that came and that trashed it, but at least we made a stop. There was nobody on it, so it was safe. If you have any questions, there is an email address, a website, and there is a phone number where you can contact me. Even to discuss ideas, you will be welcome to contact us. Thank you.
You're probably wondering how your work might relate to this. I don't know whether some of the final year students that we have remember the studies classes that we ran with Dr. McGarry last year. So we ran a competition for the best business plan, and one of the industrial design students came up with an idea for using recycled glass. And Dr. McGarry, who's an economist, thought that this project was so outstanding that there was absolutely no doubt that he could start companies straight away, never mind after he graduated, using this particular idea. And we have students all the time who are experimenting with all sorts of materials in their portfolios. I see Anna there from Metals, who's using, who's creating wonderful semi-transparent screens using plastic bags that she presses with a household iron. There are lots of ideas here that we could share with contacts that Olivier has, and perhaps they can give you some insight that you currently don't have in relation to pushing these ideas in directions that you've not even dreamed about. So I think it's a really